Hey guys, it's Mrs. Scood here, and I am going to teach a math lesson. It'll be like 5, maybe 10 minutes on here. But before I start that, I'd just like to say I miss you all so much, and I wish that we were at school, and I wish that I was actually seeing you in person. But I hope that this will help you during the week get some extra practice on things. And if you have any questions about what I'm teaching, just email me or have your parents email me, or you can call me, or we can always video chat. We can go over this stuff one-on-one. But I just hope that this will help. It's nothing new. It's stuff that we've done in class before. It's just a review. And so this is going to be the math video. So we're going to go over some rounding practice. We did quite a bit of this right before spring break when we left. And so we're going to go ahead and do some practice with that. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen. And I just want to also say, so this is an interactive video. So if I say pause your video, that means that I want you to work out what's on the screen. So you'll click on your screen and you'll pause the video and you'll work something out. If I don't say pause, you don't have to pause it. But if I say, I want you to take a minute and try to work this problem out. I want you to pause the video and work the problem out and then see what you get on the problem. Other than that, it's just kind of I'll talk and we'll go through it together. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and desktop. Share, minimize that. Okay, so this is our rounding review, and first I'm just going to go over the steps, and we've talked about these steps more than once, but I'm going to go through them anyway. So when we're rounding a number, the first thing we have to do is figure out what place value we want to round to. Like, are we rounding to the tens place, the hundreds place, the thousands place? So that is our first step. And then our next step is to look behind. So say we're rounding to the hundredths place, we're going to look back at the tens place. Say we're rounding to the nearest thousands place, we're going to look back at the hundreds place. After we look behind, the number we look behind to, we need to determine if it's, remember, weak or strong. If it's weak, that means that the number is less than 5. So it's going to be numbers 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Anything less than 5, so 0 through 4. It's strong if it's 5 or bigger. So if the number is 5, if it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 starts over. So if it's 5 through 9, that means that it's a strong number. If the number is strong, you're going to give that place value a point. So you look back at the tens place, it's a strong number, you're going to give your hundreds place 1 point. If it's weak, your hundreds place is going to stay the same. It won't change at all. And then our last step is to turn everything behind the place that we're rounding into zeros. And I know that I just explained that by talking, so now I'm going to show you kind of using numbers and a visual to remind you of the steps. So remember, our first step is to figure out what place value we're rounding at. So this says round to the nearest hundreds place. I want you to take a second and look at the first number. So the number is 634. Which number is in the hundreds place? The 6 is in the hundreds place. So I'm going to underline that. And that is the place that I'm rounding to. Now my next step, step number 2, is to look behind. So we're rounding to the nearest hundreds place. So I'm going to look back at my tens place. So remember in class I had you draw your arrow looking back. So I'm going to put my arrow looking back. So now I know where my hundreds place is, and I'm looking back at my tens place. Now I want you to take a second, and I want you to look at what's in the tens place. What number is in the tens place? It's a 3. Is 3 a weak number or a strong number? It is a weak number because it's 3. Remember, weak numbers are less than 5. Is 3 less than 5? Yes. So what happens when we get when you look back and it's a weak number? Does it get a point or does it stay the same? Weak numbers make it stay the same. So what I'm going to do here, and I had you do this in class also, if it stays the same, I'm going to put plus but 0. That means we don't add anything to it. So my 6 is going to stay the same. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to insert text box. So my 6 is going to stay the same. So I'm going to write a 6 down there and I'm going to make it bigger so you guys can see it. So my 6 stays the same. Okay, now that I've rounded, my last step is to do what? What happens to all the numbers behind the hundreds place? They turn into zeros. So there's 1, 2 numbers. So there's 1, 2 numbers behind the hundreds place. So how many zeros should I have? 1, 2. So 634, rounding to the nearest hundreds place, rounds to 600. Okay, now let's come to the next number. And I'm going to go ahead and insert that text box now. Insert text box. Maybe I won't. There we go. And I'm just going to put this here for a placeholder. Okay, guys, so let's look at the next number. So our next number is 789. So our first step is to figure out where we're rounding from. Well, it says round to the nearest hundreds place. So which number, I'm gonna let you have a second. I want you to look at 789. Where's the hundreds place? The hundreds place is where the 7 is, because 700. Now, what is our next step? We found our hundreds place. What is our second step? We're gonna look back. So now I'm gonna look back at my tens place, and I'm gonna look and see if what's in my tens place is weak or strong. So I want you to look at what's in the tens place. Is that number weak or strong? It is a strong number because it is 5 or bigger. 8 is 5 or bigger. It's bigger than 5. So what happens when we have a strong number behind our place value that we're rounding to? It gets a point. So I'm going to add my plus 1 because we had a strong number and we add 1 point. So now I'm going to come down here. What is 7 plus 1? Because that's what's going to go into our rounding number. I'm going to make this big. So 7 plus 1 is 8. And then what is my last step? What happens to all the numbers behind the place value that I'm rounding? They turn into zeros. So I have how many numbers behind my hundreds place? 1, 2. So I have how many zeros? 1, 2. So 789 rounds up to 800. Okay, now we're gonna go to our next one. So this one, we're gonna change it up a little bit. It says round to the nearest tens place. So the number that we're looking at is 661. Which number is in the tens place in this number? Which number is in the tens place? So the number that's in the tens place is our second six, or the six that is in the middle, because we have our hundreds, then we have our tens, and then we have our ones. So it's the six that is in the middle. So I'm going to take my line and I'm going to underline the tens place. So now that I found my tens place, what is my second step? What do I need to do? I need to look behind. Now I'm looking behind, so we're rounding to the nearest tens. So what is behind the tens place? The ones place. So now I want you to look at the ones place. Is that a weak or a strong number? It is a weak number because it is less than 5. So since it's weak, am I going to get a point or am I going to stay the same? I'm going to stay the same. So I'm going to put a plus 0. So now I'm going to insert another text box for the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and work that out. Okay, so when you're rounding in the middle, my hundreds place is going to stay the same because I'm not rounding my hundreds place, and it doesn't turn to zeros because it's not behind the tens place where I'm rounding. So my hundreds place is just going to drop down exactly the same. I do not mess with the hundreds place that is in front of the tens place where I'm rounding. So now let's look at the tens place where we are rounding. I don't get a point, so I stay the same. So I'm gonna do 6 plus 0, and I'm gonna get 6. Then my last step, what happens to all the numbers behind the place that I'm rounding? They all turn to zeros. Well, how many numbers do I have behind the tens place? I only have, I don't know if it's gonna let me. There we go. I only have one number. So that means I'm only gonna have 1 0. So 661 rounds to 660. So that is our review. And so the last page, I just put some practice problems. So there's only 4 practice problems. You can always rewind the video and look at the steps. So if you come back to the very beginning of the video, I have the steps right there, and you can press pause and you can look at the steps. And then after you write down the practice problems, right now I want you to take a second and I want you to pause the video, and I want you to write down each of these numbers. So I want you to write down 165 and underline the 1 in the 100s place. I want you to write down 321 and underline the 3 in the hundreds place. I want you to write down 89 and underline the 8 in the tens place. And I want you to write down 65 and underline 6 in the tens place. So write those down, and then after you've written them down, go back to the beginning of the video so you have the steps in front of you that can help you work out and round each of these to the nearest underlined place. So you're rounding to the place that's already underlined. If you have any questions, just have your parents email me and we can always video chat and talk about this, or we can work some out together one-on-one on a video chat. Again, I miss you guys so much. I hope this helps, and I hope to talk to you guys later. Bye.